What does your snowman really do when you're asleep? What would an ape do if it escaped the zoo? Did my cousin really poison my pie? Is there a secret joke hidden in this book? Do you know? Luckily, Caralyn and Mark Buehner have the answers for us. Welcome to Utah's Bookshelf, the channel that's all about celebrating Utah's own authors, illustrators, and bookshops. Today, we get to learn more about the married couple, Caralyn Buehner, an amazing author, and Mark Buehner, a brilliant illustrator, who both grew up in Salt Lake City. Carolyn was so incredibly nice to take the time to answer some questions for us. So let's get into it. So my first question, where is your favorite place in Utah and why? When I asked Carolyn about her favorite places in Utah, she said she and Mark grew up right near the big, beautiful mountains in Salt Lake City. We have a tremendous love for the majestic mountains, especially the ones on the east, she said. Sometimes when we are across the mountains looking eastward, we are just stunned at how beautiful the mountains are. I personally think one of the best things about living in Utah is being able to see the mountains every day. When they were in college, they lived in Cache Valley, which is northern Utah, kind of where Logan, Hiram, and Beaver Mountain are. Carolyn remembers that on sunny Saturdays, quote, one of our favorite things to do was just to drive around and explore the valley. It is also a very beautiful place that we will always love. I agree, 10 out of 10. I love a good scenic drive, especially through our canyons. They also love to drive down Highway 89, especially from Panguitch to Kanab when they visit their children who live in Arizona. She said, it is so beautiful. They even love visiting Utah's amazing national parks. We have a lot of national parks here, and she says that we have amazing scenery in Utah. It sounds like they really love exploring our beautiful state. Have you visited any of these places? Where would you suggest that Carolyn and Mark visit next? Question 2. Let's say you've never read their books before. Which book should you read first? If you haven't read a Buhner book yet, Carolyn says the best one to start with is Snowmen at Night, which is one of their more popular ones. I personally read it every winter. There's a lot of really fun activities that you can do to go along with this book that you can find all over the internet, or maybe your teacher knows or your parent already knows. Or maybe you can come up with your own idea. If you like this book, then make sure you check out the other Snowman books, which I was so surprised at how many there are, but two of them that I found at my library were Snowmen at Work and Snowmen All Year. But she also said that some grown-ups like their books, The Escape of Marvin the Ape, Fanny's Dream, or Harvey Potter's Balloon Farm. So there's lots of really fun books to choose from. But I wasn't able to find those at my library, but I was able to pick up a few others. So I wanted to show off a couple of their other books that I was able to find just by going down the street. Two of these two are I Did It, I'm Sorry, and It's a Spoon, Not a Shovel, which is kind of funny for a title. And these kind of books are more quiz style, but they're really funny quizzes. So not like, what's 2 plus 2? But in this hilarious quiz book, Ollie Octopus, Bucky Beaver, and their friends help point the way to good behavior. So if you think you've got really good manners and you want to put your skills to the test, you should take a look at this one. One of the scenarios is about Ollie and Oscar Octopus playing a game of tag. And at the end, Ollie has a choice to make. And you always get three choices, A, B, or C. And you'll know you're right when you can find the letter hidden in the illustration somewhere. Mark is really, really good at hiding really cool things in his pictures. So the same setup is here for It's a Spoon, Not a Shovel. And you put your manners to the test with, again, some different choices for the characters to do, and you'll find the answer in the picture. But this one's really funny. It says, are you an obnoxious ox? Has anyone ever called you an obnoxious ox? A boorish bear, or are your manners marvelous? So you can find out with that. The other three I found are also really fun. Dex, the Heart of a Hero, which is Dexter the dog is so little that Clevis the tomcat bullies him. Oh no. So that book is all about Dex and how brave he can be in the choices he makes. And then this one is Would I Ever Lie to You? And it says, my cousin Ed is such a tease. He says outrageous things with ease. Mostly they're tales, but sometimes they're true. And so I'm never quite sure what to do. Uh-oh. And then this last one that I found was The Queen of Style. From bored, silly queen to hairdresser extraordinaire, but not without some snarls along the way. So this seems like a really fun adventure of a queen who chases her dream to become sort of like really big in fashion. So those are some other books that you can look for. I also wanted to show you something really cool that I found inside. It's a spoon, not a shovel, but it has this really sweet inscription inside of from Caralyn and Mark Buehner from November 1st, 1995 that says, "For the Gambles kids, we hope you enjoy the book. Best wishes and mind your manners." Caralyn Buehner and Mark Buehner with a really sweet illustration from Mark. So you never know what you're going to find when you open especially a used book. That's why used bookshops are one of my favorites, is because you can always find, like, you usually find something. If you go there long enough, you get enough books, there's always something hidden in at least one of the books, which is really, really fun to find. All right. So this leads us to our next question. Which of your characters do you feel the most connected to? Authors spend a lot of time with their characters. They have to create them, and it comes from their brain and onto the paper so that we can all enjoy them. So it's fun to imagine which characters the authors feel most like. So Carolyn says she feels like two of her characters. One is Fanny from Fanny's Dream. Carolyn said she learned from her own grandma that there is more magic in everyday family life than in a fairy tale. So even simple family moments can be truly magical. Carolyn and Mark feel so lucky to have their family, and I love that. So let's close our eyes a moment and think about our favorite thing to do with our own family. All right, so what are we imagining? Are you baking cookies with your grandma? Are you having movie nights with your mom or dad? Sleepovers with your cousins? Whatever it is, just know that that is true magic. So the second character she feels like is Dexter, which is the dog from Dex. Oh, where it is. From Dex, the Heart of a Hero. So she feels like this dog. And Carolyn said when she was little, like Dex, I was small and couldn't always keep up with the other kids, and sometimes was the brunt of bullying. Oh no. But she loves how Dex became super brave and even helps his bully. Carolyn said, I like how Dex takes on the challenge to become the best of who he could be, and how he turns his bully into a friend by helping him out of a tight spot. Carolyn wants to be that kind of person, someone who tries to help others and who can be friends with difficult people. And so, what about Mark? That's Carolyn, our author. Mark, the husband illustrator. Carolyn thinks Mark feels like the boy in Snowmen All Year. Let me grab that one really quick. So, in Snowmen All Year, there is a boy. You can see him here with his snowman friends. That boy has a super creative imagination. Carolyn loves the illustration where the boy pretends to be a pirate with his snowman friend in a cardboard box ship. That's just what Mark would do when he was little. He would build forts in his sandbox out of giant boxes and dug tunnels big enough to crawl through. So much fun. Mark loves all the snowman books, especially the illustrations he created for Snowmen at Night and Snowmen at Christmas. So, knowing all this, what do Mark and Carolyn hope that readers take away from their books? The Buhners want their books to make you feel good. Carolyn hopes that when you read their books, you feel safe so that whenever you look at these books, it is a little bit of refuge, a time of peace and escape. She wants the books to be exciting, full of imagination, and bring happy feelings. Something that I didn't know was that Mark likes to hide secret funny things in his illustrations. Mark loves to fill the art with unexpected details or hidden pictures so that there is a lot to look for and to find. Carolyn loves that he puts a lot of humor in the picture that aren't even in the words. I know I will be on the lookout for those secret funny things, which I had never looked for before. But I noticed on Snowmen at Work, but it says hidden pictures on every page. So make sure you're taking a look for those when you're reading. They've heard people say that their books just make them feel happy. I know they make me feel happy. And Carolyn says there is no better compliment. My final question for them was, what advice would you give young writers and illustrators? So this is for you. If you love to draw or tell stories, I want to let you hear Carolyn's advice, exactly how she put it. So I'm going to read it for you now. There is always room for your personal viewpoint. Your unique perspective and your way of telling a story are unique to you, and there is room and need in the world for what you have to give. No one else is like you, and no one else will see the world quite like you do. So your expressions, whether through art or words, will never be exactly like someone else. Don't ever let discouragement stop you from developing a talent. You never know whose life it may touch. And at the same time, using and growing your own gifts will help you have immense satisfaction and joy in your personal life. If you want to ask her your own questions or leave the Buehners a note, you can use the link in the description. That's how I actually asked my questions for Caralyn and Mark. And on that note, thank you so much for joining me, and see you next time on Utah's Bookshelf.